So, we are going to celebrate the Constitution this year. Every year there's something we celebrate. Last year, it was the South African chairpersonship of the G20. Actually, closer to the truth is that it was an ideal opportunity for Ramaphosa to shine on the one stage he regards above all other, his greatness among the great, his wisdom in leading the leaders of the world. Didn't end too well. South Africa is out of the G20, well, for 2026 at least. Every year there's something we celebrate. Usually, it is something the comrades regard as important to them, and then just automatically assume that the country will, or perhaps must, celebrate with them. Usually, this great thing we celebrate is emotionally smoothing for their ego and something that shows their final victory, sticking it to the country's white minority, while, at the same time, insist that this group must celebrate the symbols of their misfortune. Nothing positive ever came from these celebrations. Every year, the dividing nature of the theme caused increasing tension between the different groups of the country. Every year, the looting and thieving involved in the process is followed, when preparing for the celebrations made the entire thing to collapse after a month or two. Every year, by the middle of the year, everybody has deflated and have forgotten about the celebrations that were supposed to be. The next year, the pattern repeats. This year, it's the Constitution. In 1993, the Interim Constitution was adopted after, and in terms of the agreements reached during the Codesa negotiations. The final Constitution, the one we have today, was adopted in 1996. 30 years ago, that's why we now celebrate it. 30 years of misery. 30 years of failure. 30 years that have left everyone dissatisfied and depressed. Everyone, except the cadres that feed at the trough. The tenderpreneurs and the Cat Matlalas of this world, criminals who now control law enforcement agencies. But boy, celebrate we will celebrate, singing to the greatness of those that have impoverished us and destroyed the country. Let me make this clear, from the outset. I am commenting as a white South African, an ordinary white South African, not one of those insisting that the regime is just fine, because they have millions and billions of rands to protect, to safeguard from the wrath of the system, and not as a white South African that is one of the few that has been drawn into the rabbit hole and actually benefits from it. I don't know such privilege. I do not experience it. I am one of the white South African for whom transformation means my children will not be allowed into opportunities of learning, even if their performance is top class, simply because they are white, the undesirables of the new constitutional order. I am one of the white South Africans actually living the more than 140 laws obliging racial discrimination against me every day. I am not Dan Creek, who represents mega farmers and had billions of rands of assets and wealth to protect, and now believes that the 80-20 principle should be used in expropriation of land, meaning that the less effective 80% white farmers must be expropriate, leaving the 20% that are already rich beyond imagination alone to produce the food and exports. In other words, leave the mega farmers and their land alone. Go for the struggling, not-so-rich white farmers. Expropriation exemptions, he proposed, should go to farmers that employ more than 100 people, farmers that are willing to invest more than 10 million rand, and perhaps farmers who enact a certain level of skills development. I am certainly not the billionaire in the center of the Steinhoff pyramid scheme, being the chairperson of the board for many years, that is of the opinion that white South Africans suffering because of racial discrimination must know their place and accept their plight. I don't have billions of rands, partly gained through the Steinhoff corruption, to fall back on, should my rosy optimism about a collapsing South African not materialize. I am one of the white South Africans for whom employment equity means you are last in the queue to find employment, even if you are the best qualified and most experienced, and if appointed, being blamed for it, and looking forward to a miserable stagnant career, legally regulated to enforce racial discrimination against me. I am one of the white South Africans for whom black economic empowerment means that Whatever you do, whatever you sacrifice, you will not be allowed to establish or grow a business in the country of your birth if you are not prepared to give away most of it to somebody else, purely because you are white, and they are not. Entrepreneurs that will get no assistance of government, including licenses, if you are not prepared to give them or their side-click tenderpreneurs a huge stake thereof. I am one of the white South Africans that are constantly being blamed by the president of this country for something we had no control over, and about whom Julius Malema and his bunch of racist fighters are allowed to sing to kill me. Sing to kill me, rat-ta-ta-ta, 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 unhindered and authorized to do so by the country's highest court, with my president not willing to condemn it on the international stage, but rather choosing to blame those demanding accountability from him on why he allows the blatant spread of race hatred, including promoting the killing of people. The Constitution calls them previously disadvantaged. What I don't understand is whether this is discrimination and disadvantage before or after the enactment of the so-called non-racial Constitution. Both were about race. It was only the colors that flipped. I am one of the white South Africans for whom employment equity means you are last in the queue to find employment, even if you are the best qualified and most experienced. And if appointed, being blamed for it, and looking forward to a miserable, stagnant career, legally regulated to enforce racial discrimination against me. I am one of the white South Africans for whom black economic empowerment means that, whatever you do, whatever you sacrifice, you will not be allowed to establish or grow a business in the country of your birth if you are not prepared to give away most of it to somebody else, purely because you are white, and they are not. And the Constitution not only allows this, it actually enforces it. Entrepreneurs that will get no assistance of government, including licenses, if you are not prepared to give them or their side-click tenderpreneurs a huge stake thereof. I am one of the white South Africans that are constantly being blamed by the president of this country for something we had no control over and about whom Julius Malema and his bunch of racist fighters are allowed to sing to kill me, rat-ta-ta-ta, 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 unhindered and authorized to do so by the country's highest court, with my president not willing to condemn it on the international stage, but rather choosing to blame those demanding accountability from him on why he allows the blatant spread of race hatred, including promoting the killing of people, citing the Constitution for his arguments. The Constitution calls it previously disadvantaged. It not only allows discrimination against me, my culture, my economic opportunities, my prospects in life, it obligated it. What I don't understand, 32 years into the miracle, the utopia promised, is whether this is discrimination and disadvantage before or after the enactment of the so-called non-racial Constitution. Both were about race. It was only the colors that flipped. The wonderful Constitution I am supposed to celebrate promises the protection of equal rights. Why then does the highest court in the country, the Constitutional Court, persistently make judgments that are based on historical and ideological interpretations, rather than an assessment of the merit of cases before it? This is an extract from the judgment of one of the judges in a case where the lawfulness of the changes of names in Tshwane was in dispute. The sense of place and sense of belonging contended for by AfriForum is highly insensitive to the sense of belonging of other cultural or racial groups. It is divisive, somewhat selfish, and does not seem to have much regard for the centuries-old deprivation of a sense of place and a sense of belonging that black people have had to endure. On this logic, victims of the deleterious effect of colonialism and apartheid are entitled to orders directing the authorities to remove names that seem to perpetuate the colonial and apartheid legacy on the basis that they induce irreparable harm. As for the mind-boggling proposition by AfriForum that harm and toxicity that apparently comes with looking only at the names linked to other racial groups, very little room, if any, seems to be left for the acceptance of black people as fellow human beings deserving of human dignity and equality, talk less of honoring them for their pursuit of justice and freedom in South Africa. It is very difficult to appreciate this kind of harm or apprehended environmental endangerment as deserving of legal protection. In other words, Afrikaner culture and symbols are not worth constitutional protection. If viewed in isolation, and from a context of scarcity, the judge's words may seem logical, but it is not as if we are talking here about a city with 2 or 3 streets, each with names, by far the most carrying the names of people not from an Afrikaans legacy background. This is taking away the Afrikaner's constitutional protection of its cultural identity. It is the same court that judged that a white woman, although found by an employment panel to be the only qualifying applicant for a vacancy in the police, the Renate Barnard case, cannot be promoted because she is too white, or, in their legal jargon, the police has the right to apply their employment equity policy, seeking for a compliant, read non-white candidate until they find one. Then there's the judgment that the song "Kill the Boer, Kill the Farmer" is not hate speech. Now remember, it was the same court that, a few years earlier, judged that showing the old South African flag is hate speech. This same court now judged that singing a song that encouraged the killing of people on the ground of their race, and perhaps their choice of a career, are not, because it must be historically understood. In a nutshell, the implication is clear. If it is white and Afrikaans for the Constitutional Court, it is hate. If it is black, it is not. Just to remind everyone, these are the words of the song "Kill the Boer." The cowards are scared, shoot, shoot, the cowards are scared, shoot, 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 the Boer, shoot, 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 the Boer. Oh, mother, shoot the Boer, shoot, 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 the Boer. These dogs are raping, shoot, shoot, these dogs are raping, shoot, 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 the Boer. The cowards are scared, shoot, shoot. I will rather not pose a picture of the old South African flag for comparison purposes. I may be accused of hate speech because that is what the Constitutional Court has judged it is. But not this song. Oh no. This is history, and harmless.
Then there's the Human Rights Commission, established to safeguard the human rights prescribed in Chapter 2 of the Constitution. This was the chapter that was supposed to protect the group and individual rights of white South Africans. This is an institution that makes no secret of the fact that it judges race-based cases and morality in the context of the country's historic legacy. Reading that white South Africans can never expect equal treatment because, in the eyes of the Commission, they are not entitled to it, given their historic guilt for the system of colonialism and apartheid. This is a commission that cannot wait to severely punish any white person slightly suspected of doing anything that could possibly be regarded as racist, while someone like Julius Malema and many others get away of the most vile racist utterances without ever facing any consequences. Well, at least there's something this government is good at, and that is mandating cadre-connected companies to develop pictures and flyers for any possible opportunities, obviously at inflated prices to include BBBEE premies. This was also the case on this occasion, celebrating the brilliant Constitution, the best in the world, securely safeguarding racial discrimination.